Alright, my friends, welcome to episode 129 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I'm the Professor Larry at Prof Plays Games on Twitter, and over there is Anthony at SummerSpeak on Twitter. He is a dev making awesome video games. How's it going, man?
It's true. I do hope to make awesome video games.
It's always a good, lofty goal.
It's probably the goal of anyone who creates, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong before getting to the final stage. But it's going good. Spent a couple days at Emerald City Comic Con.
Nice.
I'm now mentally exhausted, or socially exhausted. God, there's crowds, so many people.
Were you by yourself, or did your kids come with you?
I had some friends up.
Okay.
So I made a special trip out yesterday and today to go hang out and then wander the floor, kind of look what's around. It is super nerdy. Like,
yeah.
this is the thing. It's like, so San Diego Comic Con is very pop culture focused now.
Right.
I would say like the nerdy stuff has kind of been pushed out almost, like the super nerdy stuff. Emerald City Comic Con, and I guess these probably side Comic Cons, still retain that huge amount of like super nerd subculture. Like vendors here that I would see at the Ren Fair.
Oh, right.
Like jewelry and like self-published authors peddling their books. Independent comic people, like I made this comic book. The leather workers, tons of just stuff. I'm like, I've seen tons of costume stuff.
That sounds pretty badass.
It is hilarious, but it still has a very much of pop culture stuff because it has like Dark Horse Comics is there, Image, but like all the bigger comic book companies are still there. It's just this much more of a clear mix of old school nerdery and like modern pop culture, and yeah, it's hilarious and it's really crowded. Was not expecting that.
A couple of podcasts that I listened to have been talking about going to be at that they were going to be at Emerald City Comic Con, and I thought it was in Portland. I thought Emerald City was Portland.
Portland is not Emerald City.
No, apparently not.
Seattle is the Emerald City.
Yeah. So there you go.
Portland is what is Portland? I can't remember.
No idea. Timber City? No, that's probably not right.
No.
Emerald City is Seattle. I guess it makes sense
Seattle.
because it's so green because all the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I guess I always associated emerald with like weed, like the Emerald Triangle or whatever. But
I see.
Yeah. So I didn't realize until you told me you went to the Emerald City Comic Con. I was like, it must be in Seattle then.
You saw my picture of a giant Kirby.
I did. Yes, the Nintendo. I saw that.
That was just a random thing. Like, Nintendo's here. I assume because it's their backyard, so why not just bring out a giant inflatable Kirby and demo stations for Kirby and Donkey Kong?
Well, that's the game that's coming out. Both of those are the ones that are coming up next. Kirby's this month, and the demo actually just launched for the eShop in North America.
Yeah, and that's what they were having at the demo kiosk. It was just the demo.
Yeah.
And people could just go up and play co-op. And
right.
I didn't get a chance to play, but I watched it and everything. It looks fun.
Well, you can play it in the comfort of your own home now.
Yes, exactly.
And then Donkey Kong, you probably didn't play that?
I didn't play it. I saw it in the back. It was kind of, they had Kirby front and the Donkey Kong stuff was kind of in the back of the booth.
That makes sense. The new stuff out front.
Yeah. So, it was a very minor presence, but it was, to me, also an unexpected presence.
Yeah.
I was walking around the convention hall and came out one door and there's Nintendo.
Right.
Okay. Sure.
That's nice. I mean, it's right next to where they're at in Redmond, so
yeah,
they want to be out there, and it seems like this is a different Nintendo just wanting to be out and about. So yeah, that's good. This episode of our podcast, however, is not going to be as happy, I think. We're going to talk about some serious topics, probably get a little political, so if that's not your jam, feel free to...
A little political? I'm pretty sure it's going to dive into full political.
Yeah, so if that's not your jam, feel free to come back next episode, but we do want to talk about basically the U.S. government saying that violent video games are the problem in all of these mass shootings and that they've got to be addressed. So President Trump says he's meeting with video game executives next week.
Except the executives haven't heard about this meeting.
Exactly, which who knows what that actually means, because ESRB hasn't heard about it, the execs at different companies haven't heard about it.
But he said it.
That guy says a lot of stuff.
He does.
Unfortunately. And then, so basically it's just the old argument getting trotted out again that violent video games are the reason why these people are killing, because if you play violent video games, you are going to be a murderer, basically.
Yeah, I mean...
Despite the evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, I mean, if that Well, it's even harder now because, I mean, when was the last time this was really brought about?
The 90s?
90s, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Like, definitely after Columbine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, that was a huge one. But, I mean, even then, I could kind of see the, like, generational worry about it.
Right.
And there hadn't been a lot of studies for violent video games back then. Like,
right.
There hadn't been a lot of, like, well, let's look at this, actually. Sure, okay. And not everyone played video games back then. Like, and Columbine was 99 or 98?
That was earlier. Yeah,
it could have been earlier.
Late 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, gaming wasn't mainstream. Now everyone, I'm like, you want to point? I can probably point to every person in a high school right now, and they've played video games. They've probably played Call of Duty. They've probably played Battlefield or Destiny or some other shooter.
Right.
Let's just be honest. Like, this isn't a niche audience anymore. Like,
well, you've got
most kids play video games.
Call of Duty is the most popular game each year, selling tens of millions of copies, and I don't think we have tens of millions of people committing mass murder.
No, and then you don't see this in what if they're saying it is a problem for us. Like, Europe gets all these games, Asia gets all these games.
Right.
People bring up Australia, but Australia also gets these games, but is weird with its own censorship on video games. So
well, and they also Australia got rid of most of their guns.
I try to like keep Australia a little bit different because it's not an exact 1-to-1, because they do specifically like I wouldn't say censor. They control the video games that get there a lot tighter.
Well, and Germany's similar.
Germany's all the same way. They change, like, I don't know if it's been a while since I've actually had to deal with any of that, so I don't know if any of their laws have changed on how much they would like censor violence in their games, or people would have to change it from red blood to green blood.
Wolfenstein 2, when that came out, it was censored in Germany, from what I understood from the podcast I listened to. Not just the Nazi imagery, but also some of the violence. So
yeah, it's not they've toned it down, but those are small ones, but you can still look to all the Scandinavian countries, pretty much every other European country. I don't know how well this stuff sells. Like, Japan and China and Asia have their own violent video games, honestly. So if this was truly an issue and there was actual like causation from playing violent video games to going out and killing people, we'd have way more people doing it.
Right. It's when you compare what's happening here to other countries and exactly how you just did it, there really is just one difference between our country and most of those other countries, and it's access to weapons of mass murder. You know, access to
so that if you
rifles.
are angry or have mental problems or just in a state where you want to hurt people, it's really easy to hurt people here. Like,
it's quick.
It's easy to get a gun to go hurt people.
Right.
Super simple. And it's not to say that these other countries don't have people they get murdered. They do. Usually the survival rates are much higher. There's less people actually hurt. Like, it's a lot harder to go and try to kill a lot of people with a knife.
Right.
Like, it takes a lot longer, and it's also way easier to restrain somebody if they're coming at you with a knife.
We had an attempted mass murder in China last year or the year before with a knife, and that didn't get very far, you know?
No, it doesn't get that. That's the thing. Like,
well, even with like a
these things might happen,
pistol,
but there's just not mass casualties from it.
Right. It's access to the assault rifles, which is not unique in our country, but definitely more prevalent here than pretty much anywhere else. It's
the ease of access.
Right. You can just walk into a store and buy it.
Yep. Like the dude did in Parkland.
Right. Without much of a background check. Just, I want that. Okay.
Here you go. But with all of that coming up, like, clearly there's going to be a push for scapegoating onto video games again, and violent media. That's the root of the issue. And I don't know, since we've had 20 years of research. Yeah, Columbine 99. We've had almost 20 years of like pretty intense research on this, and shown that like this is just there isn't causation between these two things. Right. The most that has been shown is after you play a violent video game or an aggressive video game, even doesn't have to even be violent, but if it's like very aggressive, that people tend to have like higher aggression for a very short time after playing the game. But it dissipates very quickly, and it's not generally like lashing out at the people around you. You're just frustrated at the game or very intense.
Right. Well, in this article here from Scientific American, talking about exactly what you just said, one thing that stands out to me is they say that the fighting that people engage in with video games is more akin to play than to violence.
Yes.
In terms of the effect. Like if you go out and play Cops and Robbers or whatever, or use Nerf guns or cap guns or whatever, there's violence in that play, and they're comparing it to that in terms of the effect on you like later in the day or the next day or whatever.
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, people, even kids, can discern a difference between fantasy and reality.
Right.
Unless there's something mentally wrong there, which, sure, there's a very small percentage of people that have a hard time distinguishing between fantasy and reality.
And I think
that's not because video games are causing that.
Exactly right. Or even exacerbating it. Like,
yeah,
those people without video games might be in the same situation.
Yeah, it's a problem in whatever media they're consuming or however they're imagining things. Like, right. that can just happen. But general population as a whole, no. This is, you shoot someone in a video game, that's not you shooting someone in real life, or even wanting to, or desensitizing you to that fact. Growing up in the House of Hunter, I played Doom 2, Quake, all these games through high school, violent games, and you know what? I had my hunting license. I went hunting once and was like, nope, can't shoot an animal, can't do it.
Yeah.
Don't feel good about this. Sorry. So clearly those games were not desensitizing me to the reality of actually shooting something.
Well, and you're probably one of the least violent people that I know, and you've been playing video games longer than anyone else I know. So
that's just an anecdotal thing. But
it is, but
it did not change. All the games that I played that were violent did not change my underlying sense of I don't want to kill something else.
Yeah. Well, there was a string of years where first-person shooters were the games that I played the most.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, again, anecdotally, but just never aggressive in real life. Like, that just that's not who I am. And I'm not.
Do you know what's the difference between fantasy and reality?
Yeah, exactly. I know. And for me, and for a lot of people, I think playing those kinds of games are just blowing off steam or just like letting out stress. Like, it's just nice to just kind of, there's skill involved, but also competition. And, I think some people are like, yeah, this is fun to kill people. But for the most part, no, it's like, it's fun to compete. It's a competition more than anything else. It's a game, and not like a game like, oh, killing people is a game, but like it's a fucking video game, and the competition is a game. And yes, the object in some of those games is to kill, virtual characters in this virtual world, but it doesn't translate to the real world for the most part. And unfortunately, I don't think our president is bringing in experts who are going to be having a rigorous debate about this, or even looking at research or reading any paragraph of any text ever about this.
And let's be honest, like anything that I don't see it going anywhere, honestly. Like, sure, you might have your talk, but I have a hard time seeing anyone passing any laws that would change anything.
Well, we've already had the Supreme Court weigh in on this exactly or similar things.
Yep. So it's just one of those things. I'm like, it's purely being brought up to try to divert media and messaging onto other things other than this continued talking about maybe we should make it harder to get your hands on guns.
Right. That's exactly what a couple of podcasts I listen to are saying. They're like, this is all a distraction. They want you to stop talking about what the real problem is, which is the fact that people can get guns easily. That is the problem and the only problem.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if this meeting even happens. Like,
right. Well,
my thought is it probably will never. This probably won't even happen this week. It probably won't happen at all. It was testing the waters if they could try to divert things, and I just don't think it's going to. So who knows what will be up next?
Yeah. I'm heartened by some of the opposition to the NRA at this point. It's like, for example, Walmart said we're not going to sell assault rifles anymore. Dick's Sporting Goods said we're not going to sell them to people under 21. Or there's if the laws and the lawmakers won't do anything, the stores who actually sell it will. Yeah. Which is maybe more effective.
It is probably more effective, and it also probably goes to show how little. So a lot of companies, let's say if this was making them tons of money, they probably wouldn't make the switch. but it probably shows how little that they care about that segment of their customer, in the way that, like, you won't affect our bottom line at all. And you know what? We're done with this.
It's what happened with Delta when Delta said we're not going to give our NRA discounts anymore, and people flipped out, and the Georgia state legislature said we're going to take away your tax incentives, and basically propping up the NRA instead of supporting the people who are working for Delta in Georgia. But I digress. Delta came out and said, the people who are pro-gun are going to be upset about this, but you know how many times we've given that discount? 12. We've given that discount 12 times. That's nothing. There's no impact to their bottom line from that.
No, and that makes the decision very easy for a company. I did love the one when people were like, Kroger's not going to sell assault rifles.
I thought Kroger's was a grocery store.
Exactly, they are, and most people were like, they sold guns at a grocery store? No, Kroger owns Fred Meyer.
Oh.
And so Fred Meyer's that had sporting goods and gun sales are not going to sell AR-15 style, assault rifle style guns anymore.
I was very confused by that. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, it confused me at first too, because I actually know Kroger. I shopped at Kroger when I lived in Memphis. I was like, that was a grocery store. There was nothing in there but groceries.
Makes me think of
what happened in the past 10 years that they expanded into guns and groceries.
It makes me think of that.
It's Fred Meyer.
It makes me think of that Parks and Rec episode where Ron Swanson goes to his favorite store, which is food and stuff, where he buys all of his food and stuff. And it's just like random shit and then food.
Yeah. So, that's kind of was in my head too. But it made more sense when it's Fred Meyer. I'm like,
yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
But so all these companies are dropping them, and it's cool. Like,
I mean, that's where it's gonna matter. Like when they boycotted Bill O'Reilly, he was gone. You know, when their boycotts tend to work. So you know, when there's enough,
and it brings up the challenge of, like, the NRA always touts that they have 5 million members. Do they really?
So stuff that I read is people, at least on online forums, were like, yeah, I'm an NRA member. I got a hunting license and I had to have an NRA membership. I don't support them. I don't give them any money, but they get to count me as a number.
So membership does not mean paying member.
That's what I am to understand from these forum posts. So which makes me think, when I got my hunting license and did like this hunter safety and whatever else. Did I sign up for the NRA at that point?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't remember anything that was NRA signing up for that. I knew my parents weren't part of the NRA.
They weren't or were?
Weren't.
Yeah. I mean, my family, like, the whole family is hunters, and, like, there was never mention of the NRA. No one was a member of the NRA.
No.
So, I mean, why? We didn't need to be. Like, we had our guns, and we had our licenses, and that's all we needed. We don't need, now it's just like a lobbying group.
It's a lobbying group.
Yeah, right.
For the gun manufacturers more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously the idea of stopping these mass shootings by giving teachers guns is great, because then you get to sell more guns. But as a teacher, let me tell you, you don't want to be arming teachers. You don't, like, they always say, like, a good guy with a gun is going to stop these things, but there was an armed guard at Parkland, and he stayed in the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, you also have to understand, they always talk about so let's say in a hypothetical situation of a high school being attacked by someone carrying out a mass shooting there. So let's say teachers have guns, but the cops have been called. SWAT team is coming. How do they know which one of these people who holding a gun is not the person trying to murder people?
Oh, because they wear white hats. That's why.
That is really. That's how easy it is. It's
easy it is.
Under stress, you're not gonna pull the trigger at the wrong person.
Well, I was telling you off mic. I think it's NYPD. Their hit rate is 18%. Like, trained marksmen, 18%.
Yeah.
So it would be like 1%. I'd probably shoot myself on accident.
You'll shoot yourself most likely in the leg.
Actually, probably.
Let's be honest. The amount of times that people shoot themselves in their own legs.
Yeah. Or penises. I'll probably shoot myself with a penis.
Oh, that's true. I mean, it's right there.
Yep.
But I mean, it's just one of those things when in a high stress situation, unless you're sitting there being, not just having like one-time training, but constantly being trained multiple times a week on like keeping your muscle memory and your reflexes built for like even just drawing the gun, you probably are just going to fumble it when you try to draw it under a high stress situation.
Absolutely.
Like,
You're like
the chance that you
shaky.
even get it out of the holster, pointed at something, is kind of a miracle.
Right, and pretty damn low.
I mean, that's what cops and soldiers are trained to do.
Right.
Like to push down this the high stress, like when you get hit with the all the stress, that you don't like freeze or do something stupid.
Right. And teachers armed would definitely do all of those things. Just really dumb, stupid things. So that's that's a non-starter. So this video game violence causing mass, it's a non-starter too. I think you're right. It's just flailing to distract us. So let's not get distracted. The issue is there are too many assault rifles in our country. They're too easy to get, and that's it.
Too easy. There's too many. It's too easy to get. And it's too easy for them to change owners.
Yep, absolutely.
It's all what it comes down to. It's not a thing of like, take everyone's guns, even though our president said that. It's more of a like, it really shouldn't be easy to go out and get one of these. Like, you should be able to prove that you're capable of handling this and not a threat to society.
Right.
It's not asking a lot, really, but I guess it's too much still.
Yeah, it gets tied in with the Second Amendment, obviously.
Of course.
There have been Supreme Court cases that have, or at least arguments that have, including Scalia, said that the Second Amendment doesn't protect assault rifles. And
even the one where he struck down, what was it, handgun ban in D.C.?
I can't remember what it was.
It was whatever the case was. It was struck down a handgun ban, but in his Scalia wrote it, was saying that like, this does not mean you cannot ban on a type of firearm or arm in general.
Right.
Like, basically each case is kind of on its own and needs to be evaluated in its own right. So he left it open, going like, no, other bans are constitutionally okay. These things are. This one specifically wasn't for this specific reason.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more debate and argument coming up, and it matters now because the Supreme Court has shifted. McConnell did his ninjutsu.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens, but we'll keep our ear to it and see what happens next week and report back if there's anything. Other thing that happened this week, just real quick, ESRB is just dumb. They're like, we're gonna put a sticker on a game that says there are microtransactions, and then we're gonna solve the loot box problem and get senators off our back, and just parents are just too dumb to really understand what loot boxes really are. So we're just gonna do this thing, which basically applies to all games, so that it gets lost completely.
What is it? It's a sticker that basically says this game has in-game purchases, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it could be skins, it could be season passes, it could be virtual coins, it could be
expansions, like full-on expansions. Yep. It's not loot boxes necessarily.
Exactly.
It doesn't try to distinguish between the like reoccurring blind buy DLC, like not even DLC, money exchanged, hide it behind just normal kind of expected DLC.
Right. Which none of us have much of a problem with. It's a problem of the exploitative nature of the loot boxes, where you don't know what you're getting and you're paying money to just have this random blind bag, basically.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned on the podcast today, I can't remember which one it was, but basically, like in California, every single building has a little plaque that says there might be chemicals in this building known to cause cancer, basically.
Yep.
That was a law put into effect so that people would know if there were cancer-causing chemicals or whatever in the area. That's on every single building now. So no one even pays attention anymore because it's everywhere. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. It just seems like it's a way to push off the government a little bit. But I think it's going to come back around that. They haven't solved the problem, and I think it's just insulting that they think that we would believe that they did with this move.
I mean, I see this as somewhat a negotiation starting from the ESRB.
Uh-huh.
Like, their starting point is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
But it's the thing. Now they move forward from here, and what they give will probably be the middle ground will probably be more in their favor at this point.
Yeah.
Starting from here, like now people are like, okay, fine, we want the labels more specific, okay, and I'm pretty sure they don't care to necessarily do that, but
well, I think
if they started with that more detailed one, would the what was asked of them be farther? Would the government say, no, you need to adjust it even more?
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely more about playing the game with this than anything else. It is just frustrating because it doesn't solve the problem at all. And, and the statement from the president of the ESRB was like, well, it's just like baseball cards. It's like, well, actually, if I get baseball cards, I could do something with the cards. I can sell them. I can trade them. When I get a Overwatch blind box, I guess the doubles get turned into like coins or whatever. That's about it. You can't trade or anything like that.
But the reason why like a baseball card isn't considered, and this is the thing, why it's not considered gambling, because get rid of the thing of each certain cards might be worth more than other cards from a secondary market standpoint.
Right.
They're still all the same cards with paper card stock. You are exchanging X amount of money for X number of cards. Where if you gambled, you could exchange X amount of money and get nothing.
Exactly. Well,
so you're always getting something, and it's not up, and it's even not up necessarily to the manufacturer of that thing to say what's like worth more or less. Well, like that's not even taken into the equation on
that's
the law.
The argument that they're using is that's what sounds the same. The thing that's different is that I can then do something with those goods that I bought.
You actually have something necessarily with baseball. You have a physical thing.
Well, I'm fine having like a digital thing as long as I'm able to do whatever I want with it, and you can't for the most part. I can't.
I get it why they're saying that. It's just mostly more of the in a digital form. Is this more exploitative?
Right.
And I mean, kind of. I mean, you look at the phone stuff. I mean, Apple's dealt with a number of lawsuits over the years because of this.
And have changed the drop rates now.
Yep, they're publishing drop rates. They shifted to actually show like what games had in-app purchases because they didn't do that before. Right. They changed on the App Store instead of it whenever you try to get a game that's free. It used to just say free, you get it, but now it says get, so that it make people think that it's completely free, that there isn't stuff to spend money on. Like it's all a perception thing. Like, but Apple has, because of lawsuits and what's come up, like had to change things to try to make it clearer about like what's going on in their games, and they will reject games that get super aggressive. They do monitor like how games and publishers handle themselves in the App Store. Yeah.
That's the whole walled garden thing. They basically can do that because everyone wants to be there.
Yep.
I guess I heard recently that, like, for example, the game Florence is on iOS but not Android. And the argument is that iOS users buy the games and Android users don't.
No, that's true. That's
true. Is it true? Oh,
yeah, that was true years ago, and I'm sure it's true now. iOS users will spend money on games. Android users will not.
Interesting.
So yeah, there is definitely that thing where some people are like, nah, we're just not going to deal with taking our game to Android.
Right, it's not worth the effort, basically.
Yep.
Something that is worth the effort is Chrono Trigger, and we are. I don't think you played this week, but I did.
I played a very small amount.
Oh, okay. So
not. I am not. I want to wait till you catch up because I remember what happens after this next segment, and I want us to hit it at roughly the same time.
Okay. So just to recap, last week you ended up with forging Masamune and getting Frog in your party, and then that was where you stopped?
That's where I stopped.
Okay, because I caught you today then.
Good. All right.
So what happened today for me, I played probably an hour earlier in the week and got to the point where I got back to 65 million BC and got Ayla and was then figuring out what to do next. And instead of going to the forest maze, I went up to the dactyl nest.
Oh, I didn't do that. What is that there?
So remember I told you I went there a long time ago?
Yeah.
And I got this really cool Mesozoic armor. That's what's up there, is Mesozoic armor. So it's really nice armor. But I didn't realize that there wouldn't be something to do this time. There's nothing to do again. So I'm basically fighting my way up to the top, and then there's nothing. So I have to fight my way back down. So I'm severely over-leveled right now, which is kind of nice. It makes the game easy. But I felt like I was just running around in circles again today. And the problem was I did that. I got to the dactyl nest. I got to the top. And I was like, I must be missing something. So I was going to research. But then it's been a crazy week. I didn't get back to it. And unfortunately, when I closed it, I didn't plug it in. So I go to play it today, and guess what? It's dead.
All progress lost?
I lost about half an hour of progress, which wasn't too bad. So I went and did it again. And once you do it the second time, just like I think what you're finding out now, it goes by a lot quicker when you know actually what you're doing. So then I went back up to the top, and then I researched, and I realized through my research that there's nothing to do up there, which I wish I would have done that first. So then I came back down, went through the forest maze, went to the reptile lair, beat the guy at the end, which gets you something.
The dream
I
stone?
thought we had this stone already from the drinking contest. The time key. The gate.
You need your time key, gate key, so you can get back.
That's right. So I got the gate key, went back to Melkoyer, I think it's Melkoyer, whatever his name is. He reforged the sword, went down to talk to Frog, gave him the sword. He's like, yeah, I'm going to join you. And that's right. I went back and got him his magic from the end of time.
Yes.
And then that's where I stopped tonight.
The only thing I've done is I've gone back to 680.
Oh, okay.
And continuing, basically have Frog now, continuing Frog's quest.
Right.
So that's where I did one short little section, and I haven't gone into like the big, I would say probably larger dungeon, large-ish, probably an hour and a half dungeon. Like it's a bigger one. So I think that's what I'm going to try to get through this week for sure. And then
probably do that too.
The storyline part that happens right after it, which is kind of a trip. So
awesome. Well, I liked the cutscene about Frog's backstory once you get him and you stay the night, where basically you see Cyrus and then this guy named
Glenn.
Glenn, that's it. And basically he's Glenn. He's the guy who watched his friend die, I guess.
Yeah. And you're always thinking so long that he's Cyrus, probably.
I thought he was Cyrus, yeah. I thought he was that guy. And it turns out he's the guy next to him.
He's
Makes sense. He had the green hair, so it was a little
squire, basically.
Exactly. Turns him into, and then a Cygnus turns him into a frog. And then there you are.
You'll get a little bit more backstory in this next little section. Really, in the next probably like 15 minutes that you play, 20 minutes, you'll get even more backstory on Glenn and Cyrus and their connection and the whole thing. It's really good.
So I've got to go back to 600 then, and then continue. Okay, that makes sense. I think playing this game again after I play it this time, like I would like it even more because I would not be spinning my wheels so much. I'm basically just grinding. I'm grinding, which is what happens in JRPGs. But I'm doing it in a way where I think I'm progressing the story, so it's not so grindy for me. I think I'm actually supposed to be doing this, and then I find out at the end that I just wasted half an hour just killing random enemies. But it helps me level up, and I'm switching out the characters now so that I can keep leveling up like Robo and whatever else, make them all around the same level.
And you get all the different techs.
Yeah, there's some. I like Isla a lot. She had some really cool, like a screwdriver attack or whatever.
Oh, Isla had some great ones.
She had a strong attack. She was great. I know she comes back later. And I
can't even remember when you get her.
Well, from what I was reading today, like eventually you go back there, and then that's when you go to the Dactyl Nest and actually fight the pterodactyls.
I know that there's another, like almost every place that you can go, you eventually go to it for a story reason.
Right.
It's just I just can't remember if I think I have her in my like much farther along game. I think I got to that point. Almost certain I did. There's so much of the story I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, it's the question you asked me last week when I went to 65 million BC first. You said, well, did you meet Isla? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't know. But then actually when you go, when it's part of the story, like you run right into her and all those little green guys. So it definitely is like you can go wherever you want, but the story is not going to pick up until we want it to.
Yeah, and you get your DBZ cutscene.
I know. I was like, God, that looks like Goku. What? And then you told me that. I was like, oh. And she was
like...
It
is. Every time you see him, you're like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I preferred the pixel art cutscenes explaining who Glenn was. Like, I like that style better.
It's funny when the cutscene, because they put the cutscenes in, the full animated cutscenes, and then it usually cuts back to the pixel, and then you see the pixel art representation of that cutscene. Like the cutscenes don't replace what actually happens in the pixel art.
That's exactly right.
It's really funny sometimes.
Yeah, because Isla, they showed her cartoon or her anime kicking those guys' ass, and then she comes back and does the pixel version.
Yeah.
But there was no anime version of the Cyrus, or not Cyrus. Yeah, Cyrus.
No, not that one. There's only a few times when it cuts in to that animated thing. Like, that was done for the PlayStation version.
Yeah. But it's I know that the Chrono Trigger port just released on Steam, and I know it's a hot pile of trash. So just play the DS version, folks. It seems to be the best version. I
would agree. I think it's the closest you're going to get to the Super Nintendo version. And really, it is effectively the Super Nintendo version with cutscenes.
And the touch interface at the bottom is
that
nice
works
for the saving
nice.
and stuff like that. Yeah. Unclutters your screen, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we're doing this. I'm curious. Maybe you don't know, but my save file right now is at 10 hours, and we're at roughly the same spot. I wonder how long yours is.
I think mine is sitting around 8 hours.
Oh, okay. So I'm not too far ahead of you then.
No, it's just from your time grinding. It hasn't been that far.
Mm-hmm.
I did look at my much farther along game. It's at 21 hours.
Okay, so that's pretty close to the end. It's supposed to be like a 24 hours.
It was pretty. Yeah.
Well, and technically, I was looking at the guide today. We can go and fight Lavos and probably beat him in that warp area in the end of time. But then you get one of the alternate endings basically at that point.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that.
I don't want to either. I was thinking I could do that and then just go back to my previous save, but I don't really want to.
Yeah. I'm really excited to continue moving through this game. It's weird how easy it is. Like, there are times I'm like, oh, will I get tired of doing this? And I don't. Like, I pick it up, and as soon as I start playing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is just a really enjoyable game to play. Like, really smooth JRPG overall.
Well, I understand why people keep wanting to find games that give them the same feeling that Chrono Trigger did the first time. Like, people were hoping that the Tokyo RPG Factory would be putting out games that were reminiscent of Chrono Trigger, and they just have failed in that regard.
Yeah.
It's just, something about it is great. And I'm not sure, I need to beat it to figure out what that is, but so far it's just, except for the getting a little lost, it's really stunning.
Unfortunately, the lost part is, I feel like, just a sign of the times back then. Like, it's not great, but back in 96, this is what you got.
Yeah.
This is what passed as good game design. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's still well worth anyone's time.
Yeah.
It's, I'm trying to go back and play those types of games that I missed or just never finished, because I think I want to have a broader, richer understanding of like the games that came before that kind of inform game design now and what people are doing in that space. And this is like almost seems like the king of that pile.
I think so. You definitely see how it's influenced pretty much every JRPG afterwards.
Right.
And then even into other games as well. But it has a very long shadow.
It's a pretty damn good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably try to get Chrono Cross eventually. I'm not sure how I would end up
really
doing
kind of want to. I honestly, at this point, just get a PS1 emulator and emulate it.
Yeah,
like,
that
there's
makes sense.
that. You're not gonna get to play that game.
Yeah.
First, you'd have to find a copy, and then you'd need a working PS1.
Right.
So,
and that's not gonna happen.
No.
Not for me, at least.
I'm sure I could go find one, but really, and then you got to get it all hooked up to your modern TV. That should be fun.
Right.
So I think if you want to play Chrono Cross, I'm not a huge person of like always go through emulators, but emulation is probably going to be your best bet because Square Enix for some reason has no interest in re-releasing that thing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way about games where you can't get them any other way. Like, that's probably the best option. I'm still holding out hope that they're going to remaster or re-put out Goof Troop from the Super Nintendo. Still really want to. I mean, I have it on emulator, but I kind of want it on something else. But so, yeah, that's Chrono Trigger. We'll try to get through basically what the story beat that you were just talking about. I think we can probably both get there this next week. And then the rest of the show will probably be a discussion of the same games we're going to discuss next week and the week after and the week after. I assume you've been playing Monster Hunter World.
Yes.
And I've been playing
this game
Celeste.
So much.
So let's hear about those two games. Tell us about Monster Hunter World.
I'm just fully invested in the grind now. Like, I get why people love this game. I feel like I'm gaining mastery over it now. I'm fighting monsters that I would need to typically fight. I'd have my friends come in and help. Now I can solo, and I feel very confident about my skills with the weapon I'm using is Insect Glaive. Right. I feel very confident about my control of it, especially the aerial side of it, and pretty much staying on target while in the air. And it's crazy to think, like, last week I couldn't really do it all that well.
Right.
So this game has a great mastery. Like, you constantly feel like you're getting better at it. And then one thing that happened in this past week is I was grinding out higher level armor, fighting monsters, but I was also kind of upgrading different insect glaives of different status types, because you want to keep a selection depending on what monster is weak to. And I was like really having a hard time. I was like, why isn't this upgrading? Like, I've been farming the high rank stuff. I clearly have the materials to get like these 2 other upgrades. What? Oh, the upgrade between where I'm at and these 2 requires me to go back to low rank and fight some low rank monsters. So I fought a monster called Legiana, which is an ice bird thing, and a Zitsuyaku, which is a dinosaur velociraptor thing that does like lens flare flashes. And I had to go back to low rank because I just needed low rank material off them. And it's not on high rank. And that's when I learned about how much better at the game I had been, because those used to be challenging on low rank, and the Zitsuyaku I finished in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Just wrecked it. And the Legiana was like 5. That was the first time I was like, oh, I've gotten better, my gear is better. Wow, okay. You don't realize when you're in it that, because you're always going up against harder challenges, just how far you've come. And that was the first reminder of, oh, never mind. Like, I'm better at this, and I've got better gear. And I don't know, the game is pretty much everything I've wanted out of kind of that MMO grind game without being an MMO.
It's nice that the game continues to kind of throw challenge at you, even though you've put like, what, 30, 40 hours in that game?
51.
Oh, shit, okay.
I'm 51 hours in, and I'm at Hunter rank 13. I've had to look up, when you finish the game, you're expected to be Hunter rank 29. So I'm not even halfway done.
Oh, wow. Okay.
People that I know that have been playing it, so my friends who got it like a week, 2 weeks before me, they're at over 100 hours. Some people I met at the con, some friends there, are over 200 hours into the game.
This game
and they don't want to stop playing. That's the thing. The one friend who's over 200 hours is, I'm like, are you done? He's like, not even close. I love this game, and I'm not stopping.
Well, it's crazy how this game has just taken over. You're playing it all the time. Travis is playing it all the time. Every podcast I listen to, like, what games you playing this week? It's Monster Hunter. It's what everyone is playing, and every video I see, it looks gorgeous. It really does.
On a pro, this game would look incredible on your pro.
Yeah.
I don't have the pro, and it looks good for me, but on a pro, I'm a little jealous.
Yeah.
This is the thing where I'm like, should I buy a pro?
Well, yes, you should. When your PS4 dies, pretty much. Without a 4K TV, you'd still see some improvements, of course. But it's really, if you ever got a 4K TV, it would kind of behoove you to move on.
Yeah.
God, it just looks it looks something. It looks like what I wanted out of Horizon Zero Dawn, just fighting big beasts that look cool, but it kind of seems more like that than what I got out of Zero Dawn.
Yes. Horizon focused a lot more on wanting to be a story and focus on storytelling and this integrated world. Like, they went for a different thing. Even though I'm now playing Monster Hunter, I see where Horizon took elements and simplified elements of Monster Hunter into its core game loop. Monster Hunter is just unabashedly going like, no, this is a grinding game. Yeah, there's a story, but that's not what this game is really about. So you're either on board with fighting big monsters, making better gear and fighting bigger monsters, or you're not. Don't play this if you want to like follow some amazing story.
It's a game about keeping you hooked, and
yes.
I feel like I know you sent that video last week about Destiny 2 basically getting wrong what Monster Hunter's getting right, but is this the kind of game that overlaps where people who are playing Destiny 2 are like, peace, I'm going over to Monster Hunter World?
I could see it. I don't see, like, I think the only thing this doesn't give is the fact that Monster Hunter is fantasy and very much is focused on melee combat with a few range things.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it's not gunplay, it's not FPS. So if the reason why people are playing Destiny is because they want that console FPS experience with grander kind of MMO trappings, this won't give it to you. But if you're wanting to play a game that makes you feel like you have like progression and always keeping you there with things to do, more things to do than you know than you could ever necessarily do, it's probably the game for you, much more than Destiny.
Seemed like a good bang for your buck. For $60
and the
and you're
grind
there
is
for
fun.
hours.
I love the fights. Like, I'm fighting the same monsters over again. I'm not bored of them. I really enjoy the fights.
That's the thing that blows me away, is that you're not bored by doing the same thing again and again. There's something there that they've put into the game.
It's an execution thing. It feels great. The highs are super high. Whenever you pull off your combo or whatever weapon you're using and you pull off that crazy move, it feels so good. So you're always trying to be better at that mastery of pulling off those crazy combos and dodging out of the way at the right time, like reading the monster. Like the monsters have tells, they're going to do big attacks, and as you fight them more, you start learning, like, okay, I know what to do. Like, there's a deep mastery to the game. So there you go. I bet the game you're playing has deep mastery as well.
Well, I was about to say, it seems like it's the age-old formula of easy to play but hard to master.
Yep.
And that's exactly what Celeste is like. God damn it. Like, I mean, I've been talking about it forever, where like this game just looks like my jam, and I've have my thing where I'm not gonna buy games. I'm gonna wait till November, especially these story-based games that have no online component. Wait for the deal, because I'm only gonna spend $365 on games this year. And then something magical happened this week. I won a really prestigious award at my college, and I was like, you know what? I deserve a little gift. So I fucking bought it. I just fucking bought it. I told you I wasn't going to count it, but then I ended up doing it anyways. I counted it against my total, which is fine. And then I just melted into my couch, and it was just like I don't know how, it's delayed gratification. Like you really want to do something, but you either said you weren't going to, or you have other shit to do that's more important, and you're going to do the thing that you really want to do later, and then when you do it, it just feels amazing. And like playing this game, like it's already a good game, but like I've held off for like 2 months and just delayed, and like getting to play it now is just like, it is sublime.
Awesome.
It is such good platforming. People keep comparing it to Meat Boy. I wouldn't in terms of what it's setting out to do. I think the Meat Boy comparison is basically like, it's just a fucking hard platformer, and that's where the comparison stops. I guess that you come back quickly. But the it's more puzzly. I've played a good amount of Meat Boy, and I know there are puzzles in Meat Boy, but it's more about like Twitch in some areas, and jumping over things, and just traversing like just fucking really difficultly laid out area. Not so much for fun, but just to make it hard as balls for you to do. And it's just like, how hard can McMullen make that game for you? Versus this is like, we're telling a story about you're climbing a mountain, and it's fucking hard to climb a mountain. So we're gonna translate the idea that it's hard to climb Everest by putting these rooms that are all connected, and just like the metaphor of how hard it is to climb the mountain is basically how hard it is to get through these. And I like that when you go through one room, you go to another room, so you really feel like you are climbing up and up and up and up. And there's just a few different ways to get through the rooms, which is nice. There are secret, strawberries to get, basically, if you just, for no other reason. Like the game tells you there's no reason to get these things other than to brag to your friends. And it's just pretty simple mechanics. There's like a dash and there's a grab. And then your hair is red, and then when you use your dash midair, your hair turns blue, which means you can't use your dash again until you land. And there are little like gems to get in the air to get a midair dash, so that kind of adds to your tool set, basically. And then each world or each stage of the climb has some sort of gimmick. The one I just started was basically, there are these squares that you can't interact with, and then once you get to the end of the level, and there's like this mirror, and you see like your bad self basically cracks and escapes, and then these squares turn into these kind of like astral planes that you can kind of traverse, and it helps you get to places you couldn't reach earlier, and then you can progress through the level. It's just it's not just like it's fun because it's hard. It's like it's so thoughtfully laid out.
That's
like,
cool.
And not just Meat Boy, where like, I thought Meat Boy was thoughtfully laid out too, but like it was just discrete level. This is like all the rooms combine into this one huge, just beautiful, huge room, and it's just
they're thinking of the meta of the whole thing. Like the experience isn't just a single room, a single room after a single room. It's that, but it's also how all the rooms fit together.
that's the thing that's really striking me, is that it's not just about like other platformers. It's about the, I think you're always focused on the micro, like it's this jump, it's this area, but this is much more about the larger picture, about what story they're weaving. Like I've met a couple characters and heard a few dialogue conversations with them, and it's adding to something bigger. And I know people have talked about how this game isn't just good because of its mechanics, but it's good because of its story. And I'm just seeing the story reflected in the mechanics and the environment, and the soundtrack is just incredible. Like if you could find the Celeste soundtrack, like find the official page so that she can get your clicks. Because there was something where people were like hosting it and she wasn't getting money for it, basically. Everything just feeds into everything. It's just like the way that you talk about Monster Hunter World, I suspect this will be in your top 5 at the end of the year.
Right now, it definitely seems like it's going to be.
The more that I played this game, like I feel the same way. Like this is like platforming is where I come home, and this is just so relaxing. Like it's weird because it's hard, but it's so goddamn rewarding. Like you were talking about, the highs are so high. Like when I get through a room, when I figure out the puzzle and figure out how to get through that room to the next one, it just feels so amazing. And I'm still like at the bottom of the mountain. Like I'm not even to the part where it's hard yet, and it's already difficult. Yeah, it's well worth $20. I'm glad that I didn't wait. It's so.
That's really cool. They actually released their on Twitter link to. They put up a GitHub, which is a place that people put code. They put up their for people who want to look at actual game code, their player class, their player controller. Really? It's 4,300 lines of code. But if you want to see how nuanced and weird game code is, and how not perfect it is, you go look at that. It always makes me feel good when I see other stuff and go like, okay, I actually do roughly know how to do this. We all make really kind of weird stuff, and that's great.
That's awesome. I'll have to go check it out. Also, they have they posted their original version of Celeste. It was 8, some sort of code. I can't remember what it was called.
Pico, the Pico 8.
That's it.
Probably.
Yes, that's it. It was Pico 8. So that's online. You can play that for free.
Oh,
and that's
really?
That's actually buried in the game too. But you can see their original prototype. Awesome. Monster Hunter World, me, Celeste, both of us, Chrono Trigger, we're just buried deep. We'll be talking more about that next week, and hopefully some lighter topics besides guns.
Yeah. Come on, Nintendo, give me something good. Give me something fun and light.
Well, you did see the cover of the 300th episode of Game Informer magazine.
I did see that, yeah.
So I wonder if that points to maybe there'll be some news sooner than later. But if there is, we will report it here and talk about it. But this has been episode 129. As I drop my dice on the table here. Episode 129 of Prof and Dev Play Games. He is at Summerspeak. I'm at Prof Plays Games on the old Twitter. And if you like our show, please review. Some of you are, and it's really helping with visibility. So we're loving the downloads. We love having you here listening to us, and thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
All right, later, everybody.
All right, see you, folks.